Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. How's Eddie Frederick?
So glad you can join us. Government Senator Elizabeth Thompson disappointed that the Barbados Senate did not give the 18-year-old a chance in the Senate. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Thursday, 24th March 2022. Details when we return.
Hubbard's Multi-Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back. A government senator in Barbados' upper house has expressed her disappointment that the constitutional amendment to lower the age of eligibility for the Senate from 21 to 18 was unsuccessful. More in this Barbados Today news item.
She told the upper chamber it was a missed opportunity to give the nation's youth a voice in the decision-making process.
It is regrettable, sir, that there are persons who, within recent times when the matter came before this chamber, did not see the value of having a youth voice in this chamber, did not think that a young person could contribute to the broadening of the democracy and the inclusion of a youth perspective in the national discourse, and did not think that value was to be found in hearing that perspective on the formulation of policy and on issues which are affecting them now and which are going to shape their future. And I hope that with sober reflection over time, a majority of us will come to see that this was not about a single individual with a particular name. It was opening a space for youth in the broadening of our democratic process that allowed us to say to them, you are important. This is no longer the era of being seen and not heard. We see you. We are creating space for you to be seen. And we want to hear what you have to say to us because your perspective is important and you are our future. And we honor that future by giving you a seat in this sacred place. It was never about a single individual.
The Advocates Network staged a demonstration outside the British High Commission in Kingston, calling for an apology from the British monarchy and reparations for slavery. More in this TVJ News report.
The crowd has grown. They started somewhere about 10:30, and from that the crowd has just been growing. The police have been here from before 10 o'clock because I came here about around that time. And we have Jarari is here. He's remind us who you are again, sir?
I'm the Vice President of the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, founded by Marcus Mosiah Garvey in 1914.
Tell us, why do you think it was important for you to be here this morning?
It was terribly important for us to be here, all of us, and we wish more could be here, because we are representing a principle that will not go away until the British people have taken recognition of the need to give us reparation, and until our leaders recognize that we don't need to be associated in any colonial manner to the British government or the Queen of England. That's why I'm here, sir, to show the world and to help my brothers and sisters who are here, demonstrating the fact that we need to sever all colonial ties with Britain and all oppressive countries on earth.
You said something about apology earlier this morning.
Yes, apology is important, but apology without reparation is garbage. So if you want to do something good, dump the apology and give me some reparations. And I don't mean give me a ton load of money. I mean fix up my country, fix up the other countries in the world. Schools, hospitals, roads. Children who are underprivileged can't go to school. Feed them. Children who can't dress themselves. Clothes.
In related news, the British royals arrived in Belize on Sunday last for a week-long Caribbean tour that was marred by local protests before it even began, amid growing scrutiny of the British Empire's colonial ties to the region.
The arrival of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge coincides with the celebration of the Queen's 70th year on the throne and comes nearly 4 months after Barbados voted to become a republic, cutting ties with the monarchy but remaining part of the British-led Commonwealth of Nations. The couple are due to stay in Belize, formerly British Honduras, until Tuesday morning. After Belize, the Duke and Duchess are due to visit Jamaica and the Bahamas. Meetings and a variety of events are scheduled with politicians and a range of civic leaders.
Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido said on Sunday last that energy companies with joint ventures in the country should stick to democracy in talks with the possibility of U.S. easing oil sanctions on the country.
Chevron Corp, CVXN, the last U.S. producer operating in Venezuela, is preparing to take control of its joint ventures in the country if Washington relaxes sanctions in Caracas to boost crude supplies to the United States, which is trying to find alternative barrels after banning Russia's oil. Proposed changes to a license that would allow Chevron to unfreeze its projects in Venezuela gained traction after a key meeting in Caracas earlier this month between U.S. officials and President Nicolas Maduro, whose government is not recognized by Washington. Resuming Venezuela's oil supply to the United States, which remains banned since 2019, was on the table in the Caracas meeting, where other demands by both parties were presented, including releasing Americans in jail and resuming a key political dialogue in Mexico.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
By increasing the price of gasoline and diesel by $1 per gallon at the pumps, Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Pear, says the government there sought to strike a balance between subsidizing the cost and protecting the consumer from the steep increase at the pumps. More in this DBS News report.
Prime Minister Philip Pear says given the rise in world oil prices compounded by the Ukraine-Russia crisis, if government was to apply the $4 excise tax per gallon of gasoline budgeted by the previous UWP administration to the current circumstances, the price of gasoline would stand at $18.68 per gallon and diesel $18.75 per gallon. In this context, the SLP government, he says, has sought to strike a balance between subsidizing the added cost and protecting the consumer from a sharp increase in price at the pumps. As a result, effective March 21st, 2022, gasoline and diesel will now increase by $1 from $13.95 to $14.95 per gallon, while government will continue to subsidize the price of cooking gas.
We believe this is the best compromise at this time, which leaves the government with excise tax revenue of only 27 cents on gas and 19 cents per gallon on diesel, much less than the $4 excise tax budgeted by the former government.
The Prime Minister explained that excise tax revenue collected on gasoline and diesel minus the $9.5 million subsidy on cooking gas is expected to amount to $24 million in revenue collected for the fiscal year 2021-2022, $22 million less than the original $46 million budgeted for that fiscal period.
Shortfalls in revenue will have serious implications for the government's already strained cash flow and its ability to make critical expenditures in areas such as healthcare, education, social assistance, wages and salaries, and debt payments. Collections from the excise tax on gasoline and diesel are needed to finance government operations, including the provision of supplies to hospitals and health facilities, the management of COVID-19, and the provision of educational equipment and supplies.
Government called on consumers to be conservative in their consumption patterns. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
Trinidad and Tobago's National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines visited the Golden Grove prison, promising the problem which resulted in the escape of 5 men from the Aruca prison on Sunday night is being addressed. He also had some choice words for political opponents, calling for his resignation. Urvashi Tawari Rupnarayan of TV6 News reports.
One of the inmates who escaped from the Golden Rule prison on Sunday night is still at large. State agents are still on the search for Anthony C. Prasad. Around 8 o'clock last evening, Kurian Douglas and Shaquille Drayton were recaptured by police in Tacarigua. National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines visits Golden Grove to have sight of the exact confinement from which the inmates escaped.
We looked at the locus of the escape and we immediately put heads together, and the experts, the professionals, engineers, as I say, have worked out some immediate solutions to those particular problems to harden the fort, harden the target even more so as to prevent further occurrences.
The area which was breached, he says, has been cleared of inmates as immediate steps have been taken to address the problem, which the minister declined to explain in detail. Initial reports suggest the men were able to escape by prizing up a loose galvanized sheet, then cutting the wire fencing.
Because an escape from prison is quite a serious thing. The public of the country are expected to... It is reasonable for them to accept and expect that when the courts send persons here for custodial purposes, that they are kept safely from themselves, from others, and surely from creating further harm to the society. So a prison escape is quite a serious matter.
From here, it's off to a similar visit of the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, from where another inmate who was taken for medical attention also absconded from state custody on Saturday night.
We are very mindful of the trauma and the concerns that prison breaks generate, and we are very regretful at it. It brought a pall of sadness upon me to learn that these men, particularly low-risk prisoners, they were not expecting that from...
The men were initially kept at Carrera Island Prison, but were brought to Golden Grove to participate in a rehabilitative auto body repair program when they made good the opportunity to escape.
But no way, no time will we stop our rehabilitative program for the inmates. There's no correlation there. Rehabilitation is a must. It's our mandate to do that, and we will continue to do those things while we keep check on our security.
But this isn't the only escape from prison custody. Aside from the one on Saturday and Sunday, there were at least 2 in 2021.
It's indicative of the prison service. Are they weakened in some sense? Because we see that, as Minister mentioned, these persons, they capitalize on the few opportunities that they do have unsuccessfully.
I would say that the escapes you speak about was far and wide, and all have been investigated. Human beings being crafty and skillful, we have to keep modifying our security systems all the time. If you take it as a ratio or percentage of the escapes over the year, it is not as bad as that.
Newly appointed prison head Mr. Ramuta says the men and women who serve are high on his agenda.
Prison environment is a very stressful environment, and officers must feel rewarded, motivated to continue doing the work that no amount of salary could pay a prison officer to do what he does in the prison. A former commissioner, Mr. Martinez, made a statement once. He said from the time an officer steps into the gate with 1 foot, he'll work for that salary already. So that's just a figure of speech to understand how difficult the work is for a prison officer. The motivation is high on the agenda.
And as for the UNC's most recent call for the resignation of Minister Hines,
I have responsibility to account for the goings on in the particular estate or ministry. 2 separate issues. So when I heard one of my opposition colleagues calling on me to resign, I thought of 2015. I was wise and learned enough not to call for no minister to resign. And in any case, I didn't have to. Kamala Prasad-Bisesa, during the 6 years she was in government, appointed 6 national security ministers. And Kamala Prasad-Bisesa has been fired about 12-15 times on the trot, a serial political loser.
Up to news time, C. Prasad was still at large. Urvashi Tumari Rupnarayan, TV6 News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.